It was a bright Monday morning at Morven Tech Industries, a global software giant that recently found itself tangled in a crisis worth over $200 million. The company's cutting-edge data analytics platform had developed a subtle error in the algorithm that, if left unchecked, could compromise critical contracts with governments and Fortune 500 clients. For weeks, the brightest engineers and mathematicians from around the world were summoned. The atmosphere was tense. People worked day and night, yet every attempt to solve the problem ended in dead ends. Millions of dollars were already being bled out daily in halted operations and penalties. The CEO, a shrewd yet somewhat arrogant man named Charles Benton, was growing more irritable by the hour. He was used to being in control. But this situation was slipping through his fingers like sand. In the midst of all this chaos, the grand mansion of Charles Benton remained a serene palace of marble floors, golden chandeliers, and fresh-cut roses. His staff of maids, butlers, and chefs maintained the household like clockwork. Among them was a quiet young woman named Rosa. She was a maid from a humble village with kind eyes and calloused hands. Rosa did her job efficiently, never speaking much, never intruding. She dusted the library, polished the vast dining table, and made sure fresh fruit was always arranged in the ornate crystal bowls. One afternoon, Charles arrived home earlier than usual, stressed from an intense strategy meeting. He went straight to his private study, where stacks of printed reports and whiteboards filled with complex equations littered the room. He poured himself a stiff drink and sat down, massaging his temples. His mind was racing through numbers, graphs, probabilities. The board would be breathing down his neck soon if they weren't already planning to vote him out. The only sound was the soft ticking of the grand old clock on the wall. Rosa entered quietly, pushing her cleaning cart. She started dusting the shelves, careful not to disturb him. But then something unexpected happened. Rosa paused, her gaze lingering on one of the whiteboards. It was covered in rows of mathematical expressions, matrix notations, and statistical models that even most finance professionals would find intimidating. Charles glanced up irritably. Is there a problem, Rosa? He snapped. She jumped slightly. Oh, I'm so sorry, sir. It's just... She hesitated, her cheeks flushing pink. It's just what? Charles asked sharply, annoyed at being interrupted. Rosa looked down at her hands, twisting the duster nervously. It's just, I think there's a mistake in your covariance matrix. If you adjust that, maybe your regression wouldn't keep diverging. For a moment, there was stunned silence. Then Charles let out a hollow, humorless sound. My maid is giving me financial modeling advice. That's rich, But Rosa stood her ground, though her voice trembled. It's not financial modeling exactly. It's more statistics. I learned it in school back home. I used to love probability theory. I still read books on it when I can. Charles's initial reaction was to dismiss her completely, but desperation has a funny way of cracking pride. He exhaled, ran a hand through his graying hair, and finally said, All right then, show me. Rosa set aside her duster. She picked up a marker, hesitated, then began rewriting a portion of the matrix. Her movements were quick but precise. As she spoke, she explained that the dataset had multicollinearity issues, a redundancy that threw off the model's predictive power. She proposed a principal component analysis to reduce dimensions, then recalculated the eigenvectors in real time. Charles's eyes widened. This wasn't amateur doodling. She was systematically correcting a flaw that had stumped his entire analytics team. In under 5 minutes. Rosa stood back. Try running the model again with these adjustments, she said softly. Almost in a trance, Charles entered the new parameters into his laptop. The screen flashed, lines of code, renond. Then, a clean convergence appeared. No error flags. The forecast projections stabilized perfectly for the first time in weeks. Charles was speechless. He looked from the screen to Rosa, trying to reconcile the image of the humble maid with the mathematical prodigy standing before him. How? How do you know this? He finally croaked. Rosa shrugged shyly. Back home, I won a scholarship to study mathematics, but my father fell ill, and I had to support my family. I took whatever job I could. Charles felt a lump form in his throat. In all his arrogance, he'd overlooked the possibility that genius could wear a maid's uniform. He'd spent millions chasing consultants and flying in experts from Ivy League schools, yet the solution was sweeping his floors all along. By the next morning, Charles did something no one in the company could have predicted. He called an emergency all-hands meeting at Morven Tech. Hundreds of employees gathered in the glass auditorium. The atmosphere was electric. Everyone feared layoffs or more bad news. Charles took the stage, looking unusually solemn. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, his voice echoing through the hall, "I'd like to introduce you to the person who saved this company from a $200 million disaster." Murmurs spread through the crowd. Was it a rival CEO? A Silicon Valley guru? Charles gestured to the side of the stage. Out walked Rosa, still wearing her modest dress and apron, her hands clasped nervously. The room fell utterly silent. "This is Rosa," Charles continued. "She found and solved the critical error in our model that none of us could crack. Because of her, our flagship platform is back on track, and our clients are secure." Then, in front of everyone, Charles did something even more shocking. He handed Rosa a brand new employee badge. Effective immediately, Rosa is joining our data science division with full pay and benefits. She will also receive a signing bonus of $250,000. The entire auditorium erupted into applause. Many people standing, some even wiping away tears. Cameras clicked furiously. Rosa's eyes brimmed with emotion as she accepted the badge. News of the story spread like wildfire. Financial blogs, tech magazines, and even mainstream television picked it up. "Humble Maid saves tech giant." Read one headline. "Investors regained confidence overnight." Morven Tech stock soared, regaining $600 million in market cap in just days. But more importantly, Rosa's life changed forever. She moved her family into a comfortable new home. Her father received the best medical care. She began mentoring young girls from underprivileged backgrounds, inspiring them to pursue education fearlessly. And within a year, Rosa led a project that revolutionized Morven Tech's next-generation predictive engine, generating billions in new contracts. As for Charles, he learned the most humbling lesson of his life. He started a company-wide initiative to look for hidden talents within all ranks, whether in the mailroom or the executive suite. People at Morven Tech began feeling truly seen and valued, knowing that brilliance could come from anywhere. Years later, at a global tech summit, Charles was asked to name the most important investment he'd ever made. Without hesitation, he smiled and said, "It was a salary upgrade for a maid named Rosa who turned out to be the smartest person in the building." The audience laughed, then broke into applause. But Charles meant every word. And somewhere backstage, Rosa stood, smiling quietly, knowing that sometimes life's biggest problems aren't solved by the loudest voices in the room, but by those who've been underestimated the most. So next time you find yourself in a bind, whether it's a tangled spreadsheet, a failing project, or even a personal crossroads, remember Rosa's story. Genius, insight, and grace often were unexpected. Faces. Stay humble. Listen carefully. You never know who might just change your entire world in the blink of an eye.